We're not just trying to find the people who are lost, but the lost voices, the lost stories, and the lost hope of their loved ones as well.
The two boys that were in the vehicle and their parents that helped cover up the vehicle are all guilty.
We want the families to know that people still give a damn.
I saw my father put his hands around her neck, and then he carried her out of my sight.
Our name is also our mission. We are locating the lost.
I've accepted my brother's death. I can still talk to him. I just don't see him physically. And I know I'm a believer that I'm going to see him again one day.
Follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, and most podcast platforms.
And we are live. Thank you to everybody watching this live and to everyone watching this back as a recording.
Yes, thank you. Tonight we're joined by Kelly Canning, a grieving sister who knows all too well the dark side of grief trolls and judgmental law enforcement. Kelly, welcome back to Locating Lost.
Thanks.
Absolutely, thank you.
So, if you don't mind, kind of tell the people who may not remember you or didn't watch the episode that you're on, how did you become involved with our podcast?
I became involved with your podcast because my brother, Bobby Charles Robert Steele, he disappeared in April of 2023, April 11th to be exact. He was staying at my house. He had been working really hard to kind of turn his life around and had just secured housing. Just a lot of really good things were happening. And he left that day. He didn't say that he was leaving. He just walked out and he called. I knew he left because I saw it on my Ring camera. He called me about a little less than 2 hours after he left, and he said something that it didn't really hit me that it was important until later because I was mad at him for leaving and not telling me because I was making dinner. He said I told you I was going to meet a specific person at a specific place, which he never said he was. He told me that. He repeated it twice, and we just argued like brothers and sisters do. And I hung up on him just thinking he'd be back soon, or he'd call me right back. That was the last anybody heard from him ever. So a little bit of time went by. Like I looked for him throughout like Facebook and with his friends, and I couldn't find him. I couldn't locate him. He never returned my calls, my messages, nothing. So in early May, I went to Delaware State Police and I tried to report him as a missing person. They said you have to do it through the county. I tried with the county. They refused to take the case. They said that he did not fit the criteria for a missing person in Delaware. And when I questioned this, they basically said, unless you know a diagnosis of a mental illness for him, he does not meet the criteria. We will not take a missing persons report. And I didn't know a diagnosis. I just knew he had been sick and had mental health problems. And that's why he got a housing voucher. So but I couldn't give him a diagnosis. So they blew it off and they refused to even acknowledge the fact that my brother was missing from the state of Delaware. The next day, Elkton, Maryland Police Department, I went down there because he had lived there, and they took the police report and they investigated to the best of their ability. And there was a lot of work that went into this. That's how I became involved with locating the lost and so many of these other missing persons groups, pages, people, because I came sadly to find out that there's this giant community out there, people that are navigating through the same difficult and frankly like disrespectful system of law enforcement that just they don't care about people that are missing if they don't fit the criteria. Sadly, February 16th, 2024, my brother's body was found in a very not usual position. It was in a wall enclosed with no openings in a building in the banking district of Wilmington. We found out about it in March. And since then, it's just been an uphill battle to gain information, to even have that part of the case investigated, even though now he's dead and he never left Delaware, and he was only ever 5.2 miles from my house from the day he disappeared until the day his body was found. And thankfully, you guys have let me come on and tell his story, and I've gotten a little bit of media out of this, but nobody wants to hear about a missing person. Nobody wants to hear about a person who was a drug addict or been in jail. They don't want to hear about that they were found or that they're missing. And so it really, podcast shows, things like this are the only way that people hear the story of someone like my brother and so many others. And so that's kind of why I'm so thankful for you guys and that I'm here today.
Yeah. And that always drives me bonkers. Like, I don't understand, you'll watch the news every night and they show like a cute story about a puppy that won some award or something like that. And then you've got, just here in Maine, we've got all kinds of missing people right now. And you never hear anything on the news about them. Like we've messaged the different newspapers about missing people and never hear back from or the news reporters or whatever, don't hear back from them. I don't understand why that is.
At most, they might mention it briefly in like, a 10-second like clip. Oh, by the way, this person is missing, and then that's the end of it. That's the last that anyone ever seems to hear about it, and it's left to them to look into it anymore.
There's a case in Delaware right now. This is one that hits me like it just hurts my soul. A lady got off a bus. She was 58 years old, and on Kirkwood Highway on a Sunday afternoon. It's a big road in Delaware, and just disappeared. Early onset dementia. Her daughter called the police that night, and they filed it in Wilmington because that's where they thought she did get on the bus. She got off the bus in state police their jurisdiction. No one will look for her. No one. It's been since June of 2023, and this lady wandered somewhere, and nobody is covering this case. And she wasn't a drug addict. She wasn't a criminal. And they still won't investigate. The state police told me a couple months ago, well, what do you want us to do about it? She's been gone a year. I'm like, I want you to look for her.
Yeah.
Right. It's too late for us to do our job now.
Right. I said, well, I think her daughter would like to know where her mother is. I think they would like to bring her home one way or another.
Yeah. And so oftentimes it's the families that have to, become investigators. They have to become social media. I don't know what you call it, but like, they have to have a social media presence to be able to share their stories. And, they're the ones doing all the footwork, the groundwork. They're going doing the searches. And meanwhile, the police are kind of sitting on their hands waiting for a tip to come in.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing too, is if the cops do, and I get there's for the most part a reason behind it, but if the cops do have any information, like they won't tell anyone what they do or do not know to even like try to help with any of that. So
I had a meeting in late May, very end of May, with some super important people as they consider themselves in Delaware. I'm talking deputy attorney generals, medical examiners, because they were tired of me, I think. And they thought that they would give me some peace and comfort with this meeting, which was full of baloney, basically. But in it, I was told verbatim from a deputy attorney general that, Kelly, the only way that we're ever going to solve this case is if maybe like 7 years from now, somebody gets arrested for having heroin on them, and Detective Blank, I'm not going to say his name, asks him, hey, by the way, do you know what happened to Bobby Steele back in 2024 or 23? And this guy says, as a matter of fact, I do. And he tells the story of what happened to my brother that night. That's literally the only way that we're ever going to know what happened to your brother.
So do you think it's because of your brother's background and his habits that they treat them differently? Like if it was but like the Gabby Petito case, blonde young lady, cute girl, and the whole nation stops and everyone's looking for her. And then you see this happening with people who are addicts or maybe they have mental health issues, and you don't hear anything. Like it might be a blurb, like Jeff said, might be a blurb on TV or something, but that's about it, and it goes away.
Yeah, for a fact. I think, well, until I started having like my battles with the police department, I think if I had disappeared, I probably would have gotten more airtime than the average. Now, not a chance. But like anybody that's not like part of that lifestyle, yeah, of course, they're going to investigate. They're going to fit the criteria that Bobby just apparently did not fit in the state of Delaware. I can't say everywhere because, again, Elkton, Maryland, they did take the case and they did convene grand juries. Like I actually got a copy of a lot of the police report from them, which is why I have so many of the details I have now that Delaware won't give me. But they did what they could without him ever even coming back into their state. So I've got to give them credit for that.
Yep.
So that got to give them credit. But Delaware, it's like they don't care. And the worst part is the families that I've talked to that are legit families that are missing their loved ones and don't know where to go, that have been told by the police, nope, he's a drug addict. You think we have the assets to go and find him? We just don't. And that's the thing that's been told to multiple families. You don't even hear about most of it. Like I've stumbled across people on social media, but what if they don't have social media? What if they take what the police say and they just are like, okay, you'll find him someday, one day. That's awful.
Whoops, I wanted to show this one here. So Alicia Greer, I don't know if you know who she is. She says, I will continue to help you as much as possible. as much as I possibly can from this end. I'm so proud of the work you're doing, and I know Bobby is too.
So Alicia's one of the people that is a positive thing, right, from social media. Like I never met Alicia, but she's from that area, Elkton, Cecil County, and she was one of the people that reached out when she saw Bobby's story and tried with that. She tries to help as much as possible, even with just reassuring like messages and funny stories. Like sometimes that goes further than you could ever even imagine. Like maybe you open up your Facebook Messenger and someone's telling you a story that's so wild that you just start laughing out loud because you're so entrenched in grief. And then you have somebody that's just like, I don't know, just trying to see if you're okay and having an okay day. And that's the plus side of social media. So the not the other side of it is it can be really terrible. But Alicia's, she's been great and really supportive, and I'm thankful for that.
That's awesome.
And that's kind of, you had made a video a couple weeks ago, expressing how these grief trolls kind of attack the families and all that. Why don't you go ahead and start talking about that? What happened in your case?
Okay, so in my need for information, right? Because everybody wants to know what happened. With no communication from the police, very little throughout this entire ordeal, you kind of go out there, you put your story out there, and that's the only way you're hoping to gain any information. And Bobby had a lot of friends and a lot of Facebook pages and a lot of things that I needed to navigate through, but I put it out there immediately, just on my own page, and tagged him in it and things like that. Because in the beginning, you're a novice, you don't know to create separate pages and all the things that I know now. But that opens up the gateway for anybody and everybody to reach out to you. And I'm like a really closed person. I have tons of people I know. I don't have tons of people that I consider friends because I really want to trust you. I want to know you. I don't have time for idle conversations. And I would never consider myself a person that would get catfished or fall for any nonsense, because I tend to see through that. Grief's different though. When you're hurting and you have no answers and you're just getting a closed door from the people you thought would help, you are receptive to what people come to you and tell you. And for me, there's been many, but I don't fall for them all. But the one that hurt and really just took me down a rabbit hole of awful, just information, was somebody that did have some information. She did. She knew the person who was working in the building where Bobby was found. And she reached out to tell me, oh my gosh, I saw it might be Bobby, but if it isn't Bobby, my friend found a body in a building a few weeks ago in Wilmington. And if this isn't Bobby that was found, this is before we got the DNA results, then maybe the body that my friend found is Bobby. And I was like, oh, thank you so much for reaching out. How do you know Bobby? Oh, I think I knew him from school. Okay. But I'm hooked at that point. I'm hooked because I already know where she's saying that the friend found the body. I already know that's where the body was found. So I know now that she knows something. And it was just this 2-3 month long journey of back and forth, me just trying to go along with the conversation, but her just dropping bits. My friend took pictures of the body. He sent them to me. You never want to see these pictures, but I'll send them to you. And I'm like, okay, please send them. Oh wait, I'm sorry, I deleted them. Let me see if my friend will send them to me. Oh no, my friend won't send them to me. He's mad I told you about, the name of the company and the building, and it back and forth. But it got really after a few weeks, really bad. I'll read you one of the things that I was sent. Yeah. This is earlier on. This is March 15th. So the DNA came back March 15th. So this is after I said it was Bobby. This is what this woman said to me. My friend said something weird happened though in that garage, because the toilets were taken off the wall and were up by the doors, like he was trying to protect himself from someone. And he said they kept banging and yelling because they knew the person was stuck and they were just trying to help him out. He said something really weird happened in that garage and they don't believe he was alone. I don't know if the police told you any of this or not. He said they did take a lot of evidence, so don't let those cops keep you in the dark. And I said, wow, thank you for telling me all that. And she says, my friend said he was yelling and banging, and he said he's so sorry if he scared him. He feels so guilty. He said they wouldn't have pressed charges, but he said something definitely was going on in there, something weird. My friend is a pretty big guy. Bobby probably was more embarrassed or ashamed to have been found. Maybe he thought he could get himself out. But half the body was found on one floor and the other half on another. I'm sorry to tell you that, but I know when my sister was killed, I wanted every detail, whether it was horrible or not. So like, that's the day the DNA came back in.
Yeah, so you're already trying to digest all that, and then to have those messages come in.
Right.
Is that like, is it attention seeking, or is it looking for monetary favors? Or
with this person, I do know, because I did do my research, even though I still got led down that rabbit hole. This person did go through a lot. Like, did lose their father in a tragic way, did lose their sister in a like tragic accident. She got run over by a couple of cars. Like, so she has dealt with grief herself, right? I think that, like, in the beginning, her intentions were genuine. But I think that then my dependency on her giving me information, it fueled her to keep giving me more details that maybe weren't even accurate whatsoever. Because, at the end of it, I ended up talking to the guy. I don't know if I believe him either, but he's like, that's not true. None of that stuff happened. I don't know why she told you that. So I think that it started out as a genuine effort to like help somebody. But I think she took my grief and made it her grief. And that's why that you see the beginning of that there was, well, my sister was killed. I wanted to know all the details. And I think that kind of just took it down a rabbit hole to where by the end of it, it was, I'm sorry, I haven't gotten back to you. I really don't want to be alive. I wish it was me inside of that wall instead of Bobby. And I'm homeless and my kids are homeless. Like all of these tragic things that it was not my grief to have, but she took my grief and turned it into her grief.
So odd.
That's wild.
And I think that type of stuff happens a lot in missing persons cases, or unsolved murders. People like try to inject themselves into the story or something. It's weird.
make them a part of it. Make it like, and it's one thing, right? If people are genuinely trying to help, and that's not to say that the people trying to help are being selfish or anything, but there's I've heard it many times where people will try to do this sort of thing, or like the like fake psychic sort of things, and they're looking for a monetary sort of to benefit them. Some people would just be very gross when it comes to people dealing with loss, and like you said, like people were vulnerable at that time, so unfortunately the grief can take over and make them make decisions that they wouldn't normally.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, Jeff. That's a really good point, because that's something you see a lot of times is someone's a psychic and they say they can help you find your sibling or your parents, and if you just pay me X amount of dollars for an hour reading, I'm sure we can find them.
I've had that, and I'm like, no, thank you. Like I'll be all right. I'll do my own research. But they've reached out and like,
it's one thing if you reach out to them, right? But when they're soliciting you, like I have a problem with that. Go if you have information that you think you can help. Because I do believe that some people have some gifts, then go see the police department, talk to them about it, whether they listen to you or not, I don't know, but
you don't need to grift off it. You don't need to take advantage of a family who's already hurting.
If I had that kind of gift, like I surely would call the family and say, this is what I just found out. Don't believe me, but fact check me. But like, this is what I feel, and this is what I think you need to know, not, hey,
absolutely.
Especially if they're doing it for free. Like if that's the other thing, if they want to give you information for free or whatever, that's awesome of them as well. But then again, you also have lots of people reaching out, giving you different information. So then that kind of sends you down different rabbit holes.
Yes. So that leads me to the next part of this. So that's that one person who maybe had good intentions, right? Then you get the rest of them who are not even who they appear to be. So the people that have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different Facebook accounts. There was one person who was supposed to be good friends with Bobby, really good friends with Bobby. Now, I don't know anybody that knew her that knew him, but these are the things that you try and figure out by asking a lot of questions. This person literally was one person on, her name was, I'm going to say AC on Facebook. I messaged her many times on Messenger. My aunt had many back and forth messages with her. I was on Facebook one day and I saw her post something like, whoever hacked my account, I'm going to find out who you are. Within 15 minutes, this person was somebody else. New picture, new name. Every message I ever had with this person was under a new name. And same with my aunt, and never came back. So like, I don't know if that person was who they said they were from the start, and who took over their account that they changed to a whole different name and profile picture. So you just don't know who you're talking to out there.
So my wife Danielle says, human condition to insert their own resolve to the unsettling details of events like this, psychological thing too.
Yeah.
And then Deborah says, there are gifted people who will not accept money. Yeah, those are the ones you would like to believe and listen to, right? The ones that are volunteering on their own time and are willing to give you information.
Actually, Deborah is somebody that, again, I met through this whole social media thing, and I talked to Deborah for quite some time. And she has quite an extraordinary story. And she did have a person who is psychic that did wonders for her. And Deborah said, hey, I will hook you up with this person. Like, this is their name. Contact them. I never did because I just ran out of time and I've just got a million things. But that's somebody that really did volunteer that gift for me. But Bobby had already been found. And so I kind of wasn't in that search mode anymore. I was kind of in what happened versus where is he. So I really didn't entertain it. But you're right, Deborah.
That's good to hear.
Tracy says it's very hard to even keep up with people online. So it's like Kelly mentioned, you don't know who you're dealing with. And yeah, absolutely. And we've heard it several times where someone claims that when someone's missing, like they'll claim they have him as a hostage, right? Like give us this amount of money and we'll tell you where your family member is or something like that. It's just absolutely disgusting.
It's awful because hopefully, most of the people sadly, most of the people that probably watch this have dealt with someone being lost or a loved one missing or deceased. But like for the rest of the world out there, I hope that you never, ever, ever experience this because it is just brutal. Just day to day, it's brutal, right? But like to then know that there's people out there praying and taking advantage, it makes it 100,000 times worse because you're at your most vulnerable and you're putting yourself out there. And then these people are, for whatever reason, multiple different reasons, they're just causing so much more pain and confusion. It's just terrible. I know nobody ever has to go through it.
And sometimes I'll see people, like their child is missing. They'll put their home phone number on there, and then next thing you know, they're getting phone calls from Nigeria saying, "Oh, we've got your child, and if you just give us X amount of dollars, we'll release them," and blah blah blah. So I always try to tell them, don't put your number on there, put the police department. But even still, with social media, they're still going to reach out to you through Facebook or Instagram or wherever you're posting it, right?
I got a burner phone at one point because we were, my cousin was like, no, you're not putting your home phone number. My husband was like, Kelly, knock it off. We're not going to do this. And the police, I'm like, yeah, they're busy. Like, they're not going to take every call. Like, I was thinking about putting up a reward. And I'm like, they're not going to be able to take every call and like screen everybody that wants this money. So I got a burner phone. I thought it was real cool. I had a work phone, regular phone, and a burner phone. I can't even keep up with one on a normal basis. So I had 3 I was trying to keep up with. It didn't really matter. They still find you, right? Like you said, they still message you through Messenger. They'll message you on TikTok. So the phone, don't put your home phone. Just don't, because you're reachable if you're out there in the social media world.
Yeah. Murder Mystery Delaware. So this is someone that you know, right? They've covered Bobby's case.
Online.
I had a mother of victim one time only care about the money she was making from it, not actually finding her kid. Oh my gosh. That's unreal.
And that takes the credibility away from everybody that's actually like searching for someone.
Right. That just hurt. Yeah, exactly. It hurts the entire cause. Like anyone else out there who's grieving and actually genuinely trying to find answers. It would be so disgusting.
And this isn't, I don't think this is really what you're saying as far as your case, but I've seen that in the past too, where people start attacking the family. So teenage kid runs away. They've run away before. Then all of a sudden everyone online is talking and they're saying, oh, there must be something going on in the home. She must be getting abused, yada, yada, yada. When you have no fucking idea what's going on in the house.
Correct.
Like the kid might just be messed up and want to run away.
It's really sad because in Delaware, there's a podcast. Her name is Monica. It's First Day Unsolved. And she shared a teenager that was missing recently within the past couple of weeks. And she had to put like a disclaimer when she posted it, like, I don't want to share too much about this, but this child is in danger, and this mother has done everything possible to try to help this child, and leave the judgments aside, please. And the fact that she has to put that is like sick.
But then you get the cases like Harmony there, that the father was the one that ended up killing her, and it's kind of obvious that that's what happened. Or like Ayla Reynolds, and he's never been convicted of anything, but most people agree that he's the one that's responsible for it. I just want to find out what happened to her, right? So no matter what happens, I just still feel like he's the one responsible. He was one that should have protected her, and I'm sure you don't know anything about the case, but it's the same thing. Like we all have tendency to jump to conclusions and look at, is it Occam's razor there the most likely? What am I trying to say? You know what I'm saying, right, Jeff?
Yeah.
The most likely scenario is the one that really happened, right? Most of the time, that's the way it is. So,
and then you have to be like, how do they not solve it? Like with all the technology and all the information out there in the world, like how can they not solve it?
Someone has to be willing to do it, and I think sometimes most of the time that's probably what a lot of it is, right? Another comment from Tracy here saying another roadblock for some people coming forward is the fear of repercussions, or maybe they have had issues with the law. Yeah, no, absolutely.
What I said in my last TikTok was, if somebody contacts you and they try to give you any information about a case, you just simply need to say to them, thank you, but please contact law enforcement. Doesn't matter if you have, charges or you're wanted or you don't trust them, do it anonymously. Because the moment that you tell me and I tell them and you won't come forward, every time, that's the credibility that the victim's family they lose with law enforcement, because I could be making it up, right? Like if you're not going to come forward, please just leave the families alone. Just stay quiet.
Yeah, it turns into like the Boy Who Cried Wolf scenario, right? Where, I heard this and I heard this and I heard this, and the cops look into all of it. It turns out to be bunk, and then they don't trust the families anymore. So, like, I don't see the point or the purpose in someone sort of making up stuff to like lies to spread to the families.
Sometimes it's not even lies, but there is that genuine fear of law enforcement. There really is, because they are wanted or they have been set up. I mean, I encountered that a lot in Cecil County with really good people that wanted to give me little bits of information, but did not want to go to the police. And that was early on. I didn't know what to do with that. So I'm like documenting everything, but I'm not using names either, because they're like, please don't use my name. So I'm trying to take that information and do my own research to try to find out if it leads down a path that the law enforcement can investigate. It really just takes a lot of time and energy. And most of the time it doesn't lead anywhere unless you're telling me like who he was with the day he died or what he was involved in or whatever. If it's, I saw him at a park talking to this person 3 weeks ago. Like it meant something in the moment to me, but in the long run it didn't.
But it's hard to tell how that actually plays out though, right?
Almost impossible until you investigate it.
Danielle says, should have Good Samaritan law for immunity from own shit if you know shit. So yeah, so if you have a record, I'm sorry, go ahead.
We should have good police that'll bother to investigate it either way.
Right. I'm just gonna throw Joseph's comment up here because it's long and I
have
a chance to look at it. Hopefully it's nothing too bad, Joseph.
Yes, Joseph. Yeah. So he says some people it seems need to be the center of attention. Others swear they must. I swear must be delusional or pathological liars. They suddenly know everything everyone else doesn't. Goes without saying, but it causes a lot of heartache and takes resources that could be used for legitimate purposes. It's a big problem with call-in tip lines. So many people call in and just make up lies. Yeah. And it doesn't benefit anybody other than giving that person the satisfaction of, oh, someone listened to me, or they believe me.
Yeah. Or else you're involved and you're trying to steer it in another direction. That's the only reason I can think that that's beneficial.
Or that, yeah.
If the people watching, if you're a family member that's had this type of situation, would you be willing to call in live and tell us your story as well? The number is 07-619-2661.
Well, we wait for that. So I just want to reiterate some of the things that really need to be like a warning, red flag right from the beginning. And that's if you're going through this and you're reaching out to people either you think you know or friends with your loved one or that might know something of the situation, please do your research. Please check to see how many Facebook pages they have. Please check to see if they actually have anything actually about them on the Facebook page, because it's normally all through Facebook, that they're messaging you from. Because if they just created their account 2 weeks ago or a month ago and they've got multiple ones out there, you really, truly don't know who you're talking to. And you could be talking to somebody that is legit involved in the disappearance or death of your loved one. And you're going to give them information or take false information from them because you're so desperate for answers. So really try your best. If you're going to go down that route, if you're not just going to send everybody to law enforcement, then do your best to really investigate who you're talking to, because it can lead to like tragedy.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And did actually just get a text message in here on our line from Deb, who I think has been talking in here. Yes, from the Virgin Islands, as she stated earlier. She said, it's too easy for law enforcement to make blind assumptions about missing people, which not only compromises the investigation, but prolongs the suffering of those like Kelly. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
And something else while we're talking about all this stuff is, if somebody's posting about a missing child or their grandfather is missing and they're putting on a swap and sell Facebook page, and you click onto them and they have like no followers, no friends, those are scams. And what they do is they take those, once they've been shared 1,000 times, 5,000 times, 10,000 times, and all of a sudden those shares or that post becomes an advertisement for something else. So then they've got their advertisement out there for whatever it is they want to advertise.
Yes, you have to be very, very careful about this. I mean, and that's just sort of like should be general social media etiquette, right? Is know what you're resharing, do your research and this sort of stuff. But it's not something that everyone necessarily does. And Kara, thanks for joining us, Karen. We did go over this already, but she says another thing is scammers reaching out saying they have your loved ones. You have to be so careful.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine what I would have done if that happened. Like if somebody had called me and said, I have Bobby, or like, I know exactly where he is. If that was just my brother, imagine like your child, like, your child, somebody calls you and says that, I would probably fall for it hands down every time, especially in the situation of, the police aren't really investigating. It's terrible.
I would have become Liam Neeson real quick. Even after I found out it was a scam, I would find out where those fuckers lived. I would take a flight to whatever country they're in.
I'm going to make a quick little small video of him saying that too. I've become Liam Neeson real fucking quick.
Liam, if you're watching, can you please call in some
Yes.
tips? No, seriously though. And the people the mothers that have reached out to me and said that like, their children are missing in Wilmington or here or there, and they're desperate. I've done my best to try to help, like not for notoriety because you never hear about it, right? It's not on Facebook. I don't post it. I feel like that's not what I'm about. But I've fallen for some there too. Like I don't know if they actually really existed. Like the point you just made a minute ago about how they'll take all the likes and the shares and turn it into something else. I'm pretty certain that's happened as well. Just because I tried to help somebody who said the police won't help and won't take the and then all of a sudden they're just gone. Like the mom, the kid, everybody, the whole story is just gone after it was shared hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. And it doesn't feel good. It makes you want to go back into your shell and not help anybody or believe anybody because did I just assist a scammer? That's
That's crazy. What do you think law enforcement could do differently to protect the families?
I am a firm believer. I guess maybe this is the platform I stand on more than anything else. The law enforcement can prevent this from happening by engaging with families, by listening to families, by communicating, or even investigating. If they don't, and they continue on this path that has become a trend, like really a horrible trend lately of not taking reports, not investigating, just saying it's not my problem, then you're forcing people to investigate on their own, which opens up this world of like deceit and scam that the families have to navigate on their own. Because you call law enforcement and say, oh my gosh, now I've been scammed and I lost my money or I spent all this time. They don't care about that either. They didn't care about your person missing or dead, and they don't care about the fact that you got scammed. Because they'll say, well, that's what happens. That's why you shouldn't be investigating. They told me.
No one else is doing it.
They told me, Kelly, that's why you're not allowed to ask questions and talk to people, because now you've talked to them and you're jeopardizing the entire investigation. I'm like, what investigation? You said it's not suspicious. Dead in a wall on clothes, like not suspicious. But they won't investigate. They won't communicate. What are you going to do as a family member? So they're forcing this. So if they could just change even a little bit. So number one, make everybody a priority. I don't care if you find him a week later and he was a drug addict on the street. So what? That's what your job is. Look for him. Support the family that's desperately searching, and let them know where the investigation is going. If it is long-term, or if he is in fact found deceased, like, don't just shut a family out, because it's not fair. It doesn't feel good. It leads to resentment. Like I was a firm supporter of law enforcement, and now I am a not firm supporter of law enforcement because of this.
And justice is supposed to be blind, right? And like the justice system isn't just designed for people in a specific tax bracket, right? Like, it's for everybody.
And what did they say when you talked to them? Basically, they were appeasing you, right?
They didn't even appease me.
Well, that was their thought process. They were just going to tell you a bunch of bullshit and then make you go away.
Well, help me find comfort.
Yeah. So
Please.
I don't know if you already said this or if this is something you said earlier, so just in case people didn't hear it. What was their line there that basically they said, we'll just keep this open as a cold case versus giving you the records, right?
Yeah, this came in response to me filing all the right paperwork to be the executor of my brother's estate and his like the ownership of him and his death. I don't know. But I did all the right stuff. Like, I filed all the right paperwork and I submitted it to the Division of Forensic Science with my notarized paperwork. And they were supposed to send me the autopsy protocol, I guess is what it's called, the autopsy report. And I didn't get it. I didn't get it for like 6 weeks. And finally I called. I'm like, where's my paperwork? Like, where's my file? Oh, well, we got an email from the Deputy Attorney General stating that maybe have the family call back at the end of August to see whether, this is in May, to see if we're willing to release it now. I never got notified by anybody that it was intercepted on the way. So I called my not friend, not good friend, Deputy Attorney General, that is inserted in this case for absolutely no reason. And we messaged her. We didn't call her. We messaged her and said, like, did you intercept this file? And so she called us and gave us like a ridiculous story. But at the end of it, she said, Kelly, this case, I can keep this case open and cold forever, and you will never get access to the file. I've been doing this for 25 years and no one's ever questioned me and my judgment. And I said, what if I want to have it all independently evaluated? Because I just feel like that's my right. Like, I know that the body's gone, but I want to have the file independently evaluated to see if everything was done properly. She said, Kelly, that's really how she talked to me. Well, I guess you would have to hire an attorney and get a judge to sign a subpoena or a warrant for me to release those records.
But what did they say? What was the ruling of his death? Accidental?
Undetermined.
Undetermined, so they can say that that's still pending.
Closed by the Medical Examiner Division of Forensic Science. Completely closed. But she's holding on to it because she said that she basically just said she won't give me a reason why.
Because I don't do wrong, essentially, is what that sounds like.
Yes. Yeah.
No one's ever questioned me. What a gross line.
It was foul. I have it no, I can't say that. Well, I have it recorded.
You can say whatever you want. We can swear on here.
But I listen to it sometimes to remind myself of why I'm doing this. Like, this is how this woman spoke to me. And this is, if she spoke to me this way,
you have it recorded?
I do.
Rage is a very good motivator.
That should be played tonight, Kelly.
I know. But then I'll get arrested. You'll never hear from me again. I'll be like in some hidden prison.
Is Delaware a single party consent state for recording?
So.
Tracy has something to say. She says, to mirror what Kelly is saying, it should be the expectation that the same people that protect and serve should also support, no matter the specific demographic. People are people. Yeah, exactly. And I do want to go back up to Ann Perkins' comment. Her daughter Elizabeth was found deceased on the side of the road. The guy that put her there, basically the cop said the most they could charge him with is littering. So Ann says, I got a call saying there's a phone recorded conversation what happened to my daughter, saying I can have the phone too. She didn't have one. I have text messages of her saying she had one. So I'm not really sure what Anne's saying there. I think she's basically saying that someone's trying to scam her there as well.
The police really said that?
Yeah. Yeah, because basically his statement was that she overdosed, and that's where he left her. Him and his father left her there on the side of the road, and so he could be charged with littering charge. So she's got a page set up to try to get a new law put on the books here in Maine, at least, called Liz's Law. Let's see. Terry Staples, no one deserves to be victimized for who they are. Everyone is a human being and should be treated as such. Absolutely.
And is also saying, I want to call in, and absolutely.
Yeah, call in, Ann.
Feel free to call in, Ann. Oh, we
So
might
Tracy-
have her calling right now. 1 second.
Tracy's my cousin. She was in that meeting with me with the deputy attorney general and all of them. So
Oh,
she has,
so she's your witness. She knows.
she's got some firsthand knowledge.
Were they aware you were recording the conversation?
I didn't record that one. This was a phone call leading
Oh.
into that. Just her. I wish I had recorded it, but I did. Like, really, the meeting with them was so. It was really bad. It was just really bad
So
information. Other
we
than
do
that.
have Ann on the line. Ann, you're live right now.
Hi.
You guys
Yeah.
hear her?
Hey, Ann.
I,
How are you?
Wait, you?
Good. So, do you want to tell us what happened to you?
Yeah, I have one of those cyber trolls. She comes on my page under different names and leaves me rude comments that she was going to, threatening comments actually, a few times. And let me start from the beginning.
Yeah.
December 2019, I get a phone call to call her from a alias profile, a different profile, 2 different profiles I got to call her. I ignored the phone call. I ignored the conversation, actually. She calls me, and she says, yeah, Warren Seidlinger did it to your daughter. It's exactly the both profiles, I'm sorry, I'm going too fast.
No, you're fine.
Anyway, I have 2 different profiles where she contacted me that Warren Seidlinger did it. And I'm thinking, well, did what? And I knew who Warren was, and I ignored her at that time. And she called me that morning. Oh, yeah, I got a phone call conversation that what Warren did that night. She didn't get into details, but she just went on and on and on that he told this girl, told that girl, and that girl broke up with him. She went on and on, just BS.
Yeah.
And she told me that I could have this phone call conversation in which she told the detective she had a phone conversation to give him.
Yeah.
So when he went to go get it, she told him he didn't have one. She didn't have one. So therefore, that he believed he believed there wasn't one. So anyway, I got text messages.
What do you think her end game was, and what purpose do you think she?
Huh?
Why do you think she did this? What was her end game?
I don't know. She just said that she's a good person. She thought I should know, and she couldn't believe that he didn't go to jail and all this other happy crap,
So
she told me everything I wanted to hear.
So she said that she had it, but she didn't ask for any money in kind for it, right? That you said that there's almost threatening messages. What do you mean by that? Was she saying like?
Well, I'm sorry. Yeah, I called her out on it. I even put her name out there, and I really didn't care if she sued me for defamation of character because I have to prove what she said and what she did. I even have the text messages that her and I had back and forth. Me asking for the phone conversation so I could put the end to this. Put Warren in jail, if possible.
That's where it belongs.
She refused to give it to me. So,
Do you feel like you lost credibility with the police because you went to them and said that? Do you think they treated you any different after that?
I can't hear you. What's that?
Do you feel like you lost any credibility with the police, like that because you went and said that she had this recording and then she said, no, I don't have it? Do you feel like the police like held that against you?
I have. I feel like nothing's being done about it. I mean, there's proof right there that she had evidence that proves what happened to my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And they won't go and get it.
Just because,
I don't know.
That's I don't understand why someone would do that. That blows my mind. Claim that you have something that could help get answers for the family, and then when someone asks about it, the police actually show up to try to do something about it. Oh no, I don't have that. And I hope that she does, but to me it sounds like maybe she actually doesn't, and she was just like sort of what we've been talking about, just trying to sort of attention seeking.
Well, I have a text message that was to her daughter that says that she wished she had the phone. How did she put that? Let me see if I can find it. 'Cause I know I got it right here, and it would tell me. It just blows my mind that the cyber bullies out there, you know.
Especially for people like you guys, like already going through so much, and then to have people like try to pile on and mock families or take advantage of them or slander the families.
Yeah.
Slander the person, you know, slander the victim.
Right. And the victim.
Yeah, that's a good point too. You see that all the time. They start bashing the victim and saying it's their fault that they're missing, you know, it's the behaviors they chose.
Oh,
People
that was thrown in my face too.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to let her get to me.
Good.
You can't.
And thank you for calling in tonight. If you do find that, go ahead and put it in the comments, kind of what she said if you get a chance, okay?
I will.
All right.
I will. I
And
think
you
I'm
take
almost
care.
close. Thank you.
Yeah, thank
We
you
love
very
you,
much
Ann.
for calling in, Ann.
Hi, Ann.
You guys all have a good night.
You too.
Bye.
You too. Bye.
Thanks.
It's terrible.
It's everywhere. It's every case we cover. I don't understand.
There's always an example of it, and it's not something that we usually drag on too much about. Not that we're dragging on here, but it's not something that's usually highlighted very much because it's not something people really want to talk about either. You know, we want to talk about the positives as much as we can and stuff like that. But it's something. So thank you very much for being with us tonight to actually to get into this, because it is something important that people need to be aware of.
Joseph says, oh, sorry. Joseph says, I agree with what Kelly said about jurisdiction. It needs to be worked on by law enforcement. My brother's case involved multiple state lines and ultimately became federally investigated, which helped. But it was planned that way because a lot of criminals know that by doing that, slows down the investigation, so many departments won't or can't do anything without proper paperwork. Yeah, that happens a lot too. They'll cross the state line and ditch a body, just knowing that it's going to take longer to figure it out.
I did a TikTok on this. This is before Bobby was found. And I mean, I had a list of, I'd say 20 people that disappeared between Delaware and Maryland. I didn't even go further than Cecil County. And the people that started contacting me after I did a TikTok on this, it actually was kind of terrifying because like I called out names and states and places the bodies were found, and people started calling me or messaging me saying things like, this is body brokering and you're messing with like the wrong people you don't want to mess with by bringing light to this. Like, so stop. But I was like, well, the criminals are smarter than the police because they're doing this on purpose. And I kind of took a step back from it because I was like, all right, if these people are telling me that X, Y, and Z is involved, I don't want to be at risk. But that is a fact, and jurisdiction is a BS excuse for law enforcement to not do their job, because the one I mentioned earlier, the one who got off the bus, that's in Delaware State Police jurisdiction, and they flat out refused to investigate to this day, and she's out there somewhere. It's ridiculous.
Terry Staples asked, does Kelly feel Bobby's case will be solved?
Nope.
Oh, that's hard.
What is your gut feeling? Do you think it was someone he was close with, or do you think he just ran into the wrong crowd?
I think he's been with the wrong crowd. I think that Bobby, based on his own words from March 20th, right? Like less than a month before he disappeared, when he messaged me and said, something bigger is going on. I'm scared. I've got to get out of Cecil County. Like I need somebody to call me on a video call every day or two, just to prove to people that I have family that will look for me if I disappear. The fact that he said those words on March 20th and then he was gone on April 11th, I think that whatever he was involved in was much bigger than him. And he was trying to get away from it and he didn't. And he ended up dead and enclosed in a wall and nobody could have gotten into on their own. And I don't know if it's a bigger investigation. Like, I don't know if that's why all these deputy attorney generals are involved in a drug addict, criminal, homeless person. Like, I don't know why they're involved in this case at all. So like I hold out hope that maybe it's something bigger, but at the same time, if it is, then he's just a forgotten piece of it. And that's not okay. Not okay. He mattered. Still matters. And like, that's why I won't stop. That's why I'm always in trouble.
Do you believe there's any connection with Sarah's brother's case?
I think that I did for a very long time, and I'm not saying that I don't anymore. I think that overall, there's entirely too many people in that demographic that are missing from the same area that knew the same people. And that in and of itself should be enough to open a federal investigation, because we're talking Delaware, Maryland, and Pennsylvania as 3 states that these people are going back and forth between and dying or disappearing. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if that day, the people that Bobby connected with that day, 4 years after Chris Dietrich, I can't remember if it was 2018 or 2019. I think that the situation is the same, right? But I don't think that necessarily the players were the same. But whatever is happening, whatever happened to Chris and so many others is exactly what Bobby was involved with. And it's crazy that there's no federal investigation into it. It just doesn't make sense.
We did have another comment from Deb here, and she's saying the feds need to investigate the Attorney General's office. And yeah,
good idea.
I agree. Seems like too much fuckery is afoot. For the people, this is specifically the people who watch us. I'm really thankful that people that we have, and a lot of people that do watch us are, families of victims. But I'm happy that we don't get that sort of crowd in here that harass or troll. And we were talking about before we even went live that sometimes there's a question that might sound a little disrespectful, but it's not intended that way. And I kind of wanted to, and anyone who does come in here that has any rude stuff to say, it's pretty quick for them to see that we're not on the side of attacking the families, obviously. And I kind of wanted to segue into something, a conversation that occurred with us the other day. The last guest that we had on was talking about 4 people that had both, one who had gone missing and 3 who had died in mysterious or weird circumstances. Well, there was one man involved with all 3 of those, or all 4 of those cases, potentially the last person to be around all of them. Someone claiming to be him reached out to us on Messenger and was very upset that he didn't know that we were talking about him and his case in these cases. I just want to put it on the record that we're not fucking here for you. We're advocates for the families and the victims. And he claimed that we're a good investigative reporter or journalist would reach out and ask these questions. Well, like I said, we're advocates for the family. We're not advocates for the potentially guilty. And we also don't claim that we have no biases, because we do have a bias. And if something seems fishy, then we're going to call it out. He was also upset that people are allowed to sort of give their own opinions on things. And again, we talk with all the guests before they come on. Everyone's allowed to have their own opinion. We say, we do mention if it's speculation. In my opinion, I think or assume, those are sort of our lines that we give the guests, and absolutely. But people are allowed to have their own opinions. So again, fuck you to that guy in particular.
Yeah, and Terry says, "Oh my goodness, you invited him to tell a story." Yeah, so I had mentioned that when we talked to him through Messenger, and he said, "Well, I didn't watch it live, so I couldn't have joined you." I said, "Well, you can join us now. We can set up something this week. You can tell your side of the story, or if you want to even just type up a statement, we can read that on there." Because, I mean, everyone is allowed to try to defend themselves if he thinks he can.
Yeah, and he just kind of went on about how we weren't, we, like I said, I told him, we're advocates for the families, and well, you have a large media presence, so by that standard, you're supposed to act this way. No, we're going to act the way that we want. We are here for the families and the victims.
Thank God.
Yes, we would be willing to let people come on and give their piece, but again, we will never claim to be non-biased in a situation. I'm not looking to be a reporter or an investigative journalist or any of that sort of thing. Like, we have a purpose here, and it's for the families and the victims.
Yeah,
and to get their stories out.
If they do come on live, they'll screw up and say something they shouldn't, and then please can use that.
That's amazing what you said. Like, and you guys are like, I don't, there's nowhere else I can go and tell a Bobby story, right? Like, there's just
Love
not.
you, Joe.
But I think that F that guy, like you said, let him come on live.
Yeah, and we'd give anyone a fair shake to tell their side of things, and we would ask in honesty. But there's a lot of, and you probably didn't see that last one, but there's a lot of really weird stuff specifically with that case that it's very hard for any person who can think could see him as not potentially being the person involved.
It was wild. I did watch it. And a side note on this, when I met with the Elton PD detectives, like the second time, we went through like everything. They listened to one podcast I did. But no joke, one of the detectives was like, well, maybe we should contact this when the ex-girlfriend was a person of interest, and I can pretend to be a podcast like person doing the interviews, and I could talk to her. And I'm like, this is a detective telling me this. I'm like, I'm pretty certain that's probably not going to be like admissible in court, but if that's what you want to do, detective, sure. So you guys have that unique ability to be able to ask questions, like push people past like their limits to be able to actually get the truth out of people. And I think that that's like amazing. And I wish more people that were like accused would come on this show, because
I don't think very often we would get people who are potentially the perpetrator to get on here. I don't see it.
Terry said, what a podcast that would be.
It probably wouldn't last very long.
I don't know. That might be a whole nother venture. Get the guilty talking. They love to talk.
We could call it Fucking with a Criminal.
I'm in. Sign me up. My goodness. I got a list of them who would love to be on there. They just talk for no reason.
So I guess, unless someone else has anything, Kelly, really appreciate you coming back on and joining us again and bringing a light to what's going on. People don't think about it, all the time. Even myself, and I'm involved with true crime, right? I'll read a missing person thing, and it's just a little snippet in the newspaper. And then when you start talking to the family, you find out all this other information that they don't talk about in the newspaper, and it becomes a much deeper investigation that should be happening, but most time isn't happening.
And yeah, the troll side of things, and it's like, and you can almost, I'm not excusing it, but you can almost see how it happens the way that things are in the world today. Is it's so easy for everyone to be so detached and just have an off the cuff remark to things. And this not that probably enough people are going to see that it's going to matter at all, but just have a little bit of humility with the stuff that you say online, especially when it comes to like the families of a victim.
Yeah, and if you have, like, if you are that person, like I was a sibling, or I'm searching for my brother, if you have somebody in your family or a friend that can be that support for you, like I said earlier on, my aunt was that support. Like, she was the one that would screen all of the social media pages, and she would see the comments before I would see them most of the time, and she'd be like, no, Kelly, you're not going to respond to that because it's just get into it, and there's no reason. It's a troll. And
don't feed the trolls.
Don't feed the trolls. They don't get your energy, because you need your energy to focus on the person that you're looking for, or the answers that you're looking for.
Deborah says, Kelly, keep persevering, stay dogged on your determination. Terry says, good night, everyone. Thank you, Travis and Jeff.
Thanks, Terry.
Joe says, I'd love to see Justin DePietro. I assume he's talking about Travis and Jeff in the same room with a camera going. I don't know if I could allow a camera in there, though. Podcast justice. Yeah.
Well, again, thank you to everyone who tunes in, because you guys are what helps keep this going. I mean, we'd be doing this even if we didn't have people watching. But we have a really
show you we
good
don't make
group of
money
people
doing
that-
this, so
Yeah.
that's not why we're doing this.
We have a great group of people that tune in, and we really appreciate you all being here. There's a lot of love and support for the families involved. So thank you guys.
And Jess from Justice for Rob Morrison Jewers. Thank you, Kelly. Great episode, Jeff and Travis.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you, Kelly.
Yes,
Everyone have a
thank
good
you.
night.
Have a great night, everybody. Ooh,
I didn't push it.
I'll get it.
5-year-old Taylor Williams led investigators to Alabama this week.
So we have some breaking news from Florida. An arrest has been made in connection.
After years of agony, a glimmer of hope for the family.
Investigators spent hours searching through this house off Pennsylvania Avenue.
What could be a major development in the search for missing Alabama teenager.
Tonight, a stunning twist in the search for Taylor.
Somebody out there knows something.
They want to lay him to rest their way, not by somebody else's way.